tear, it falls and hits the ground. A tree, it falls without a sound. A bird, it calls and sends you home. A man, he sits in the cold all alone.
Hi, Amanda. Thank you so much for joining me on The Joy of Sunflowers. Please introduce yourself a little bit so everyone can know a little bit more about you.
Yes. Hi, Ella. Thank you so much for having me. It's truly an honor, and I just think what you're doing is incredible, and I'm so thrilled to be a part of it. My name is Amanda Hertweck, and I am a holistic health coach. I've been a holistic health coach for a year now, and I just recently, very recently, as in like 2 days ago, completed my pregnancy health coach exam. So I am also qualified in pregnancy health and gut health, and I am also currently studying in hormonal health as well.
Gosh, that must be really interesting, the hormonal health. Like, are you learning things that you're like, oh, I should have done that for myself? Like, I didn't even know.
Listen, it is wild. Like, hormone health is, everyone should be educated in hormone health because it's so important. Like, it's not just about you know, your sex hormones and making babies. Like, it controls the whole body, and when something is out, then well, you don't really know, but you can know if you're setting your hormones and you're paying attention to what your body is telling you. And by that, I mean, any type of symptom that you have is your body's way of communicating with you. So once you kind of understand the why, that's whenever you can kind of correct it. And it does go along with, fertility, but it's beyond that too. It's great. It's wild.
Yeah, no, I looked a little bit into those sorts of things because I homeschool my kids, and I'm a firm believer in knowing what you're teaching, like really investigating. So I looked into the body and all these hormones and what they do, because the kids always ask these in-depth questions, and you're like, I don't know. So you have to have answers.
Yeah, right.
Yeah, so many different organs like play parts in these hormones and creating these hormones and making these hormones work and making them efficient. And it's amazing. Like, I was just like, oh, okay. I thought, your brain just, like, I thought there was, part of your brain that makes these hormones, and then they go where they go. And
And then they just do what they're supposed to do. I mean, that's true to some extent, but there's a lot of different factors that can throw them off. They're very delicate. So yeah.
And even down to like food, like specific foods that you need to eat to like enhance those hormones and the production of those hormones. Yeah, you don't think of it like that, a lot of the time, because we're not taught that sort of whole body approach.
Right.
Yeah, and it's great that you're doing so many courses because you're really going to have that holistic ability. I'm guessing that's why
Yes.
you're doing it, because you're like,
Yeah. Yes. Yeah. I mean, I guess I've always kind of been a little intrigued by hormones, but it wasn't until I had my 2 miscarriages that's when I really started doing my own research. Like, even before I wasn't enrolled in IIN's hormonal health classes, I did my own research, and I was blown away. In fact, this book, I don't know if you can see, it's called Woman Code by Elisa T, is amazing. It is absolutely incredible. I would recommend it to anyone and everyone. I mean, she just breaks down everything so that it is, easy to understand, and then it's just mind-blowing. And if you don't want to read the book, yes. And if you don't want to read the book, I also recommend, she has an app that's called My Flow app. So it's a way for you to track your period, and not just track it. It's not like it's not like a natural cycles or anything like that. I mean, kind of, you're not putting in like your basal body temperature, but it's just for you to be more aware of your cycle and what is happening with your cycle, so you can track your ovulation and any symptoms. And then again, these symptoms are clues of what's going on with your body. And then if you list any of these symptoms, or even, you know, like how short your cycle is, or how long your cycle is, or how heavy the bleeding might be, she gives you kind of instructions of how to fix it.
Oh,
And
wow.
what might be the reason why this is happening. So I highly recommend that app, My Flow app.
I might have a look into that myself. I am pregnant right now, so I have to wait until after.
I'm so excited for you.
Thank you. I'm just, you know, it's that whole thing of you're like, oh, you know, just it's not real until the baby's born, because you don't know. But with the hormones and the periods and stuff, like I had like a 30-day cycle, and it was very light, but I was in agony, you know.
Oh, wow.
And it lasted a week. So I wonder what that means. So maybe I should start looking into that after this one, because I do really want to get on top of my health. And I think a lot of us don't really think about that, you know, the details and what those symptoms mean, because, you know, we're just not educated in that way. Like when you go to school, they're just like, yeah, you have periods as a woman and that's it, you know. They don't. Yeah.
And then, and I don't know if it's like this, because, you know, I'm here in the US and I know you're in Australia, but pushing the birth control, the hormonal birth control at a young age is very much a thing here. And what happens is that when you're taking the birth control pill, the hormonal birth control pill, all it's doing is masking symptoms. So those problems don't actually go away. And then you don't really know what's going on in your body.
Yeah, that, I mean, that's part of the reason why I used to take paracetamol and things like that sometimes, but I stopped completely after I had my first son, because I was like, I didn't want to have him while breastfeeding and stuff, but I also realized that, yeah, it was like band-aiding, and I was like, well, no, I need to feel whatever my body's feeling so I can understand what I need to do and how I need to look after myself. But yeah, I never thought about it in terms of periods.
Right.
Yeah.
Yeah. Why would you? Because again, we were just taught, okay, well, this is a thing and this is what you do. And
Yeah. And I think it gets belittled, you know, oh, it's just PMS, you know, you just.
exactly. Yeah.
Yeah.
And here's the thing. You don't, that's not a thing. Like, you don't have to live with that. And that's what she goes into detail in this book. It's really, really fascinating.
Yeah, that, you know, I feel like that is so revolutionary. Like it could really change someone's life completely, because when you go through that once a month, it's, you know, if you get pain and you get that kind of vomity, you know, because I used to throw up, I used to be weak-kneed, like I was really unwell with it. And there were times when like I couldn't do anything during that cycle. And I think
Wow.
that is so powerful and has such a big potential to help so many women, and even young women, because it really, my worst time was when I was in teenager years. I hope we can get that word out, because that is really amazing just to think of that and the changes it could do.
Yeah, absolutely.
So let's go into how you started to look at all this, by starting at your journey. So sort of, let's go from the beginning. Did you always know you wanted kids, or was it something that you know, became a thought that became something?
So I come from a family where it's just me and my sister, but my mother's side of the family is very large. Like when we get together for families, it's literally like 50 people because she has 5 siblings and then they all have, you know, children, and they have children. Like, it's insane. So whenever I was younger, I always thought, yeah, I'm going to have 6 children. I want to have 6 children like my grandparents did. And then as I got older, I was like, no, I don't know that I want children. And especially throughout my 20s and when I got into my early 30s. And I think, and this is hitting me just recently, I think the reason why I wasn't so sure if I wanted to have children is because my parents' relationship was awful.
Oh.
Awful. And there is a lot of childhood trauma that oddly enough just recently came back to the surface. And so I'm kind of like dealing with it again up front, like, okay, I can't just push this aside, because me personally, my defense mechanism with trauma is to just block it from my memory. So I realized recently that I was never worried about finding a spouse or having children because I didn't want to put my children through that. Like what me and my sister went through, I did not want to do that again. But, you know, as fate would have it, I ended up finding my husband. And then even when I found him, I thought, and like, I was very upfront with him. Like when we weren't even really dating, we were just hanging out. And this is what I'm like, oh, I don't even know if I want children. He's like, I didn't say I did. Like we weren't even dating and I'm throwing this out like, like, why did I just say that? Kind of thing. And then it was quickly after that, I was like, so what if I did decide I wanted children? He was like, yeah, I think that we should do it. So no, it wasn't that I've always wanted children. And it wasn't even that I really wanted a husband. And I think it's because I was just so terrified of reliving that childhood trauma. I didn't want to, I didn't want that failure. I didn't want to, you know, put, like, what if it didn't work with my husband? And, you know, what if I ended up in this abusive relationship and, you know, I had to put my children through that. Like, I just didn't want to do that again. And then, you know, part of me thinks, well, I waited and I found this incredible man. And, you know, now we do want to have children. And, you know, we've only been married, well, when this will air, it'll be about 2.5 years. So we haven't really been married that long, but we've been trying for as long as we've been married. And unfortunately, we haven't had any luck yet. But we still have hope.
Yeah.
We have to have hope.
Hope is so important. You know, I mean, even if you don't get the results you want, having that hope, you're not going to regret having hope. You know, you're not going to regret feeling, you know, that sort of joy that, you know, it could happen. I don't think you're ever going to regret that. The regret comes when you just give up.
Mm-hmm. Yeah. And I mean, you know, we've talked and we are still very hopeful. And my heart of hearts, I know that I'm meant to be a mother. How that's going to happen, I have no idea. But I know that it will happen. And that's all you have to have right now.
Yeah, I mean, I've heard some pretty amazing stories of just women going the alternative, different routes, like surrogacy, adoption. Like there are a lot of options, and that's just like not even going with your own body. But then there's also so many options to go with your own body as well, like IUIs, IVF. There's like there's some sort of strange ones, like where it's just like protocols of like different hormones and different treatments. And there's just a lot that you can do these days. Like they're really working it out. Not quick enough. They should be way further, but there's still a lot of options, which is really fantastic. But yeah, I totally get what you mean about the trauma of adolescence, because yeah, I mean, when we're growing up, those things affect us. And I think we probably came from a similar background, because I had a very full-on upbringing. Just one parent was kind of more not nice. So I will link below a lady who I spoke to who is in the reparenting space, and reparenting goes through your trauma and like helps you deal with that as an adult, because obviously, yeah, we do have to relive those things. And like I've got to say, like when you do have kids, or if you do have kids, you have to see that like it's like a mirror, and sometimes it's really painful because you realize you're saying exactly what they had said to you, or you're doing something that they used to do, and it hurts. It does. So I understand your fear. Like it's definitely a real thing, but I think when you make an effort to not do that, and you're making an effort to show them that, you know, I'm working hard at this and I'm trying this, and you know, I think there is an understanding there. Like my kids aren't scared of me, you know, my kids aren't scared of us, you know, and my husband went through some things as well. So, but there's a way to kind of like do it, I think, like go through it, you know, and you just kind of be honest with your kids. And I think that really helps. And yeah, but I get the fear. It is scary, and it does come up on you, and you do just have to deal with it regardless, because it's going to come get you anyway. And like you said, you're dealing with it now. But yeah, so I'll link her below, and yeah, there's quite a lot of those sorts of people who are doing that. So yeah, reparenting, it's quite interesting. You might want to have a look, because you seem to be one of those people who research and have a look at things. So
yeah, I would love to check.
Yeah. But yeah, so let's get into your sort of journey so far in the last sort of 2 years with your husband.
Yeah, so and this is, I don't know, kind of funny, I guess. So I am 39. I just turned 39 last month. And so when we got married, I was 37, I think, if I can do my math. And so I knew, okay, yes, I'm getting older and I don't know how long it's going to take and whatever. And I said, I was trying to talk him into trying even before we got married, just because I didn't know how long it was going to take. And, you know, you have this timeline in your head of, oh, this is going to happen then, and this is going to happen at this time. And that doesn't happen at all. Right. So anyway, we started trying, because he's very like, well, I really don't want to start trying until we are married. Okay, I can give that to you. That's fine. But we did. We started trying like right after we got married, and it only took 5 months. And I was very pleased with that, because I knew like, okay, you get to 6 months and then, you know, you have to like maybe start doing the testing or whatever, especially because of my age. So at 5 months, I was like, wow, we did it. And there was part of me that was like, well, I knew I could do it. And I was expecting this to be, you know, I'm a healthy person and I'm doing all the things. And I don't know. So it was just easy. But at the same time, I feel like I almost brought this on myself, because I also thought, I'm going to have a miscarriage because of my age, and because it's so common that I know the first time I get pregnant, I'm probably going to have a miscarriage. And I did. And so that's where my guilt comes in, because I feel like I manifested this miscarriage. And like, I know it sounds wild.
It does.
And I even had like, I told one of my friends that, and she was like, why do you think that's going to happen? I said, I don't, because this is what I'm being told, because of my age, because this is a thing that happens. And so I set myself up to have that miscarriage. I feel like that's what happened. Is that what happened? I don't know.
No.
You know, that's the thing. Like, nobody really knows why they happen. They can happen for numerous reasons. They could happen for no reason at all.
Yeah.
And that's kind of the sucky part, because you don't really know.
Oh, wow.
Come to find out that, you know, it ended up taking, so it probably took another year before I got pregnant again. But before I got pregnant again, I went to a different doctor because my first miscarriage was horrible. The miscarriage itself, okay, like nobody wants to go through that trauma, right? But I had a doctor who I had only ever seen once before, and it was during COVID. So I didn't really have a need to go see her, and they weren't seeing anybody anyway. And it was my first pregnancy, and I had no idea what to expect. So when I woke up that morning and there was some blood, I was like, I'm calling my mom, like, is this normal? She's like, well, you could have some spotting and whatever. I'm like, I don't know that that's what this is. Now, I wasn't even like a week pregnant. So thankfully, it wasn't that traumatizing. However, I still didn't know what was happening. So I called my doctor. It was on a weekend. So I had to call on call. It took 8 hours and nobody called me back. I had to call again and be like, is this normal? Because I don't know what to expect. Like if I'm calling you and you're on call, I wouldn't think that it would take 8 hours and then for me to have to call you back. And then I never did hear from my doctor. Never heard from my doctor. I finally heard from whoever the on-call doctor was, called me back, and you know, and again, because I'm a smart person, I know what are they going to do for me over the weekend? They can't do anything. They said, yes, it kind of sounds like that. We'll have to give you some blood work on Monday. Okay, well, this was Saturday. So on Monday, I had to call the office to try and schedule this blood work. Nobody answered the phone. So I left a message. I didn't receive a phone call back until Tuesday. Now at this point, they're like, oh, I saw you left a message. And I'm like, yeah, on Monday. This happened on Saturday. So like, what? I don't understand. Like, what is happening? Like, first of all, I don't know what's happening because it's my first time ever being pregnant. And then this is happening. And then I can't get anybody to call me or help me. And then to make matters worse, once I finally got the blood work done, I had to go back for more blood work and the numbers weren't dropping. So now this woman who is not my doctor, I don't know who she was, is telling me that it could be an ectopic pregnancy. And at the time, I didn't even know what that was. So I'm at work during busy season, because this was an office job during tax season. And this woman was very rude in telling me that I might have this ectopic pregnancy. And what am I supposed to do? It was the first time I ever had a panic attack because I did not know what was happening to my body. And I'm thinking, all I wanted was a baby. And now I'm putting myself in danger. And that just didn't seem right to me. And then I had nobody to help me. Like, this woman was so rude. And so to me, that experience was actually more traumatic than the miscarriage itself.
Yeah. So I was speaking to someone the other day and they said basically that there's like layers of trauma that often come with miscarriage. You know, before you can even get to grief, before you can even get to that part of where you've got going through the loss, you have to break past all these layers first. And, you know, obviously that is a definite layer, like no one answering your call, like you being like, what's going on? Do I go to work? Don't I go to work? I'm going to work. I'm at work. What? So yeah. I'm not surprised that you had a panic attack, because that would have been pretty full on to just hear that over the phone at work.
Hmm. Yeah. So, thankfully it wasn't an ectopic pregnancy, and, it did what it needed to. And again, I'm always so thankful for my body, for it to know what to do. Your body always knows what to do, even if it's not what we want it to do. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
It knows what. Um,
Or it works
so
it out. It works it out in the end. Like mine took 2 months. So it works it out. Like if you do it, pretty much if you do it naturally, it will work it out at some point. But obviously you do have to worry about, what's called infection and things like that. So it just depends on what scenario you're in. But yeah, your body, that it will eventually work it out.
yeah. Yeah. So after that, it probably took another year, like I said, before I got pregnant again. But in between that time, I found a new doctor. and and she, I went for my yearly and was just explaining to her what had happened to me and why I left the practice. And she was mortified. Like, who wouldn't be mortified when you hear that story? But she said, we'll give it another month. And if you're still not pregnant, we'll do some tests. So then I had a test done. And then that's when I was told that my left fallopian tube was blocked. So that is what is causing my challenge. I don't like to say infertility. I just want to say that right now. Like, first of all, we need to change our mindset, and we need to just remove infertility from our vocabulary, because it has such a negative vibe. Like, I don't want to be branded as infertile. Like, I'm on my fertility journey, and if it's more challenging than others, then so be it. But that's where I am. So my fertility challenge is that I have a blocked fallopian tube. And the only options that I was given was to have surgery, have it removed, or do IVF. And for me personally, neither of those options were good options. Like, I've never had surgery before in my life. And for me to just go in and remove a part of myself that otherwise is like, it's not doing any harm, I felt like I was going against my body by doing that. And at the same time, I would still like to try and conceive naturally, because I know that the sperm and the egg are meeting. Like, that is a thing. I just need to get it to move to where it needs to go. So I finally got myself in the right mindset to do the surgery. It was actually scheduled for last March. And it was like days before the surgery. And my doctor called me and said, I don't like your kidney levels. They're a little too high. So I'm going to cancel the surgery. I'm like, wait. Like, what? This has to be a joke. Like, I had finally come around to the idea. I had my mindset. I'm ready to do this. And then days before, she's telling me I'm not going to do it. Okay.
Oh.
So she wanted me to call my PCP. She wanted me to do more blood work to test my kidneys, because she's telling me I might have kidney disease. And I'm like, what is happening? Like, it was just like one thing after the other. And again, it was during tax season, because now I'm in March again. So I'm like, why is this always happening in tax season? Oh, so I was actually able to call my doctor like right away, and was able to go the same day to go get this blood work done. Right? Like, that does not happen. But I did it. He was like, I don't know why you're here. You're fine. Like, these numbers are normal. I said, okay. He's like, I'll fax them over to your doctor. Fax them over to the doctor. nothing. Like I'm texting them, or like we have like, you know, an app where you can go in and chat with the nurses or whatever. No, we didn't receive the fax. So I had to go back to my doctor. Can you resend the fax? Well, we already sent the fax, but we'll resend it. And there was just all this constant back and forth. And then it took like a month for them to do anything. And by that point, now I'm waiting on them to reschedule my surgery, which was supposed to be in March. And now they moved it to July. And I was like, this isn't, and by this point, I'm like, I'm out. I was ready. And now this is like the universe is telling me this isn't right. Something isn't right. And I didn't really feel good about it anyway. And so like, this is another thing that I want to stress to not only women, but people. You have to be an advocate for yourself, and you have to trust your intuition, because it won't steer you wrong. So like, there has to be another way. There has to be another way that I can do something about this block tube. And let me tell you something. I found it in this book. And it's called Clear Passage. And it's physical therapy. It's external massage. It's 20 hours of external massage. So it's 4 hours out of 5 days. And it has a 70% success rate of opening block tubes.
Wow. I literally just spoke to a lady before this interview on another interview, and she was saying that she had a tube removed because it was blocked. And she said she's really scared that that the tube left is going to get blocked, because the doctor had said, you know, it looks okay. And she was like, okay. And he said, for now. And she was like, right. So I think, yeah, like that's you. I've always been a firm believer that we can fix anything with our bodies. Like, we can help heal, we can eat the right things, we can do whatever it is, but you kind of need to know what's going on. And with a blocked fallopian tube, you do know. And that is amazing to hear, that, you know, there is a percentage of people that actually it will work for.
Yeah. So I am currently in the process of figuring that out and scheduling that. And that itself has been a little bit of a challenge, just because, you know, well, for one, they initially wanted, you know, like a doctor's signature, and my doctor was like, no way. Okay. So I still on the hunt for a doctor, because I need one that's on my team. Like, you need a doctor that's going to fight for you and fight with you, you know? And that's okay if you don't, you know, believe it, or you've never heard of it. Just because you've never heard of it doesn't mean that it doesn't exist and that it doesn't work. Right. And also, it's not your body, it's my body. So I don't understand, like, why. And I guess, you know, maybe they don't want to have any reliability or whatever, but I mean, to me, having an external massage on my uterus is a lot less invasive and less risky than having a body part removed.
Yeah, you
So,
think that. You think that.
Yeah.
No, I get what you're saying. You know, it's amazing, you know, how doctors are when it comes to alternative medicine, because they just don't really get taught about it very much. My father was diagnosed with COPD and was told that he was going to die, and that he should get his affairs in order, and, you know, just be on some air. And he was like, I'm not taking this. I'm not taking this lying down. And he went home and he researched, and he started doing all these random, like, natural protocols and like all this stuff. And the one that actually worked was called DMSO. And he just took that stuff like it was nothing, and he stunk because DMSO stinks like garlic. But he cured himself. Like they checked his lungs and they're like, there is no sign of COPD at all. And they were like, his doctor was like, I don't know what you've done, and I don't want to know. Get yourself a new doctor.
That's ego. That's crazy.
3 years on, 3 years later, he's still alive. So this is like, it's just showing you like they can't all take it. And I think signing that piece of paper goes, well, there might be something better than what I prescribe. There might be something better, that works, that's healthier than what I tell my patients to do. And I think that can be hard for some doctors. But you think they just want to help their patients and try anything that
you
could
think. You think. But that's amazing.
Yeah. I mean, the liability thing is a thing, especially in America. I know, like, you guys in America, like, there's a lot of lawsuits and things like that. We don't have that as much here in Australia, but it still does happen, but more so in America. So I think I get that. But at the same time, like, you could always get them to, like, you'd be like, I could draw up another piece of paper, like, with a lawyer that says that you're, completely liability free if something happens to me while I'm being massaged,
Yeah. I know. Like when you say it like that, it just sounds so silly, right?
Yeah, I'm being massaged, I could die. No. I laugh. I'm going to take that back because I don't know if anyone actually has died from a massage, because we don't know. There could be something, I don't know. There could be something else wrong, and then they push on it and then something happens. So maybe, I mean, I guess that could be a thing. You never know.
Maybe. Yeah, you never know.
But I feel like it's a bit silly. Like it's a massage. Like,
yeah,
you're told to get a massage when you're pregnant to, like, help you through the aches and pains and stuff. So yeah, and like acupuncture, you're putting needles in your body, like, and people promote that and say that's fine. So
I know. But
don't
yeah.
the uterus. Just start looking into it yourself and do it.
No. Well, listen, I mean, that was a thing, because I got so intrigued by it, because there was a point in time where I wanted to be a massage therapist, and I thought, well, maybe this is where I need to go. Maybe this is what I need to do. It's interesting. They only have like a handful of locations in the US, and then they have one in the UK.
Oh, wow.
Yeah.
Well, maybe it's something that you could do after this course. Just like
never stop learning, I just want to learn it all.
Yeah. And then you'll have this really, like, all around, I can massage too. I do massage. I know about this random thing that, your doctor probably won't sign off on, but I can do it.
Exactly. Yeah.
Okay, so from there, so that was your first loss, and I mean that's quite an experience, like, just doctors just not being helpful, and not even getting phone calls back. That's ridiculous, and waiting that long as well, like,
yeah,
like, so anything could have happened, and it's like 8 hours later, and now you're calling me. What are you thinking?
They didn't even call. I had to call again.
Oh my, yeah, you had to call them. Okay, so how did the second one go?
Oh, the second one, I gotta say, I was, the first time I was pregnant, I knew I was pregnant without even peeing on a stick. I knew right away, which was wild because I had never been pregnant before, but I knew. I'm like, this has to be it.
Yeah.
The second time I got pregnant was a complete surprise, especially because at this point I already knew I had a block tube, and it probably, wasn't going to happen, but we were still trying because we have to, like, we were still trying because we want a baby, and that you have to try, right? So total surprise. And I was convinced that this time was the right time. We were in a different stage of our lives. At this point, we had our own house. We were both career-wise in a different spot. And it just, I felt different. And I even told my husband that, like, I feel different this time. I feel like this is it. And then it wasn't. And that one was hard. And I think it's because, and I'm going to go back to, like earlier in this conversation when I said, that I had manifested this miscarriage, because for whatever reason in my mind, I told myself that I was going to have one miscarriage and then I would be fine. So in my mind, I had my first miscarriage and now I'm going to be fine. And I wasn't. And I was hopeful because the first pregnancy I wasn't even pregnant a week. Like maybe even like a few days. And so that's why I just kept telling myself, I just need to get past this mark. And then, then maybe I will feel more comfortable. Like I just need to get past this mark. And I think I did by like a day or two. And then that's when I started feeling crampy. And I was like, this isn't, I'm hoping that this isn't what it is. I'm going to go to bed. And then when I woke up in the morning, it wasn't. And it was hard. It was really hard. And I think it was, I think what made it even sadder for me was watching my husband fall apart.
Oh.
And then I don't know. I think after that one is whenever we decided, because we didn't really tell anyone about the first one. Like we told our family. But when it happened the second time, that's when I was really in the end of becoming this health coach. And I thought, I need to share this. I need to share this story because there is a reason why this is happening. And I know I'm not the only one. I know this happens more often than it doesn't. And if I can be a voice to bring awareness to it, or just to bring hope and to bring inspiration, or just to be a listening ear. I felt this calling really to share our story. And he did too. Like I didn't post anything without his permission, because it's equally his story as it is mine. And he felt that way too, like to the point where he thought of putting together a podcast, because he's like, there's a lot of women, and obviously, I mean, it's their bodies, right? They're the ones going through this. But for a male who doesn't have any idea what that physically is like, and then they're not really sure how to comfort or what to say. So it's like this interesting combination of, well, I'm grieving too, but I also need to be there to support you. And I don't know how to do that anyway, because I don't know what to say, or I don't know really what you're feeling. And so, yeah, that's why, we wanted to share our story, because we just didn't want people to feel alone, because you're not alone.
Yeah. A lot of the time as well, like our husbands are the ones that say some of the worst things to us, because they are trying to comfort us and they just don't know. You're right. They just don't know what to say. And yeah, I mean, men do go through the grief as well, because it was their child as well. And it was their, it was their chance at being a father to a living child. And when that doesn't happen, and they maybe would have had thoughts and would have imagined that, that is really hard. Some men have mechanisms, like my husband, where they don't feel it because they've already had it in their mind of, it's not a possibility until it's born, like it's not real until it's born. So then they protect themselves, it's a protection. And even I think a lot of men forget that, like they're like, oh no, I'm a man, or they're like, maybe I'm crazy because I don't feel like I'm like how I'm supposed to be upset. And it's like, well, no, you've got a safety mechanism, you've put this on yourself, and you're protecting yourself, and you just have to understand that that's what you've done. It's not that you're, there's something wrong with you, or that you're not a good person. It's just that you express and feel differently because you have protected yourself. You've done these things. And in some ways, I think some women get very jealous of that, because they're like, I wish I could just get on with life, and yes, be sad, but like get on with it, because I don't want to like not, acknowledge the child, but, move on, just like keep moving. But we can't, we have to deal with these things, and they do come back to us. With the second loss, you said it hit harder. Do you think, or do you feel like the first loss hit you at that second loss as well? Because a lot of women sort of say, because of the drama of the first one, because it was your first one and you weren't expecting it, like, when it comes to a second loss, you kind of get both, like sets of grief at once.
That's a really good question. And I don't know that I know the answer to that. And again, I think it goes back to my defense mechanism of blocking out trauma. And I'm not saying that I don't remember the first miscarriage, because I do. But I feel like I'm a very kind of live in the moment person. And again, I think because I was so sure that this one was going to be the one, that I think I was just solely focused on this one, that I didn't even really think about the first one, and it wasn't even like I thought, well, here I am again. It wasn't that either. I think it was just mourning the loss. I think I was just in that moment.
Yeah. I just ask because, sometimes it can be both at once, and sometimes, it can just be what you're experiencing from that loss. Loss is so interesting in that way, because, we really do experience it differently. You said your husband went through it too, and he was quite, emotional about it. How was that season for you both? Did it bring you closer together?
Yeah. I have, every day I fall more in love with my husband. And I could not be luckier to have him as a partner. And absolutely, when, something like that happens, I just, my heart just exploded for him. I just fell in love with him so much more because he's such a loving man, and it shows in the way that he was showing the emotions of losing this child, and the way that he was comforting me. And yeah, he's just an amazing man, and teamwork makes the dream work. That's our motto. So we're in it. And you know, he just said to me this morning too, like, you make me so proud, and I love our life, and I wouldn't trade any of it for anything. Like, you know, I'm going to say, like, everything happens for a reason, and we don't really know yet why we are on this journey, but we accept it, and we accept it with grace and a positive attitude and determination.
Yeah, it sounds like it. And it's so beautiful that you guys are together in that. I know there's a real mixture, you know, of people kind of either coming together or moving apart. And it's so nice to hear when people do come together and they are stronger through these experiences. And Harry, if he does start a podcast, that would be amazing. Like, I know there's some guys doing some different things. I can link them down below as well. Yeah, if he wants to come on here, I'm happy to interview him if he wants to.
I will mention it to him.
Sorry?
I said I will mention it to him for sure. I mean, he came up with it like right away and everything. Yeah, I mean, I was like, you need to do this because he would be so good. He'd be so good at it.
Yeah, and we've got a few male speakers already, so I'm trying to get a few more. So we've got a whole section for men who, you know, their wives have joined this event and they're like, there's a whole bit for you. So they can at least like look at something that they, you know, can relate to. You know, instead of watching us ladies talk about, you know, the more detailed things like hormones and periods.
Right.
Like, this doesn't relate to me. You have to watch it.
Right.
I certainly got my husband to watch, and if I had been aware of like men's podcasts and things that talk through it, I think I would have been like, hey, listen to this guy, because, you know, they're actually talking about it from the male's perspective, and maybe that'll help you a bit. Because I think the trouble for them is obviously dealing with us going through what we're going through and not having any idea of how to do that. So having support in that, I think, would be very helpful for a lot of men, because my husband was like, well, how would that help me? You know, he's like, you know, I'm fine emotionally, and I'm like, yeah, but, you know, it's been hard to deal with me, right? And he was like, yeah. In a loving way. He said in a loving way.
Right.
He was like, yes, it's been hard. Like, I love you, and I just, you know, I want you to be okay. And, you know, yeah, I think it's hard for them to watch us go through it. And someone was saying to me the other day, it's trauma for them to watch their, you know, the person they love go through that. And I can see that too. But yeah, sometimes it's hard to see that when we're the ones in it and we're just like, well, you don't know because I'm going through this and blah, 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 you know.
Yeah.
Poor guys.
I know. Yeah, I mean, really, I can't imagine what it would be like to experience it and then not really experience it. I feel like it would almost be like an outer body experience kind of thing. Like, you are living it, right? You are going through that trauma as well, but you're not.
Yeah.
You know?
Yeah. I don't envy their position in that way. The only thing I like about the way they can deal with it, or at least the way my husband deals with it, is that he can keep going. Like, he, you know, he keep working and keep doing things, whereas I'm like a blubbery mess every now and then. I'm like, oh my god, you can't do anything, everything sucks.
Yeah. Yeah.
I mean, I know your latest post sort of talked a little bit about that. How has that been for you? Like just the emotional sort of outbursts that we sort of have to have.
Yeah. I mean, it really, I don't know. It just kind of comes out of nowhere. Something, might trigger me that's not even related at all to pregnancy. Something just might remind me of, I don't know, maybe a due date, or I don't know, whatever. But yeah, so like I said, I just finished my pregnancy health coach training, and it was a wonderful program. And I'm so excited to share this knowledge with women of all stages of pregnancy. But that training was hard. There was, first of all, it was only like a 6-week program, so there was a lot of information in a short amount of time. And I think just being overwhelmed with all of the information, and then what the information was just, it was overwhelming. It was hard. It was hard to, I don't know, just study and try and stay focused. But when those feelings came up, I didn't ignore them. I allowed them to happen. And it's just part of the healing process. It made me feel better to know that, okay, I'm addressing this hurt, and it's making me stronger. And and now I'm learning all of this really great information. And honestly, I think that if it wasn't for my miscarriages, number one, I probably wouldn't have found myself doing the whole pregnancy health coach thing.
Yeah.
And I certainly, like, I have so much more knowledge on pregnancy and, birthing and postpartum and all of these things that I never would have thought of prior to. And so again, everything happens for a reason. And I just feel like this is just my journey, and it's sometimes difficult, but it's totally worth it. And I'm just embracing it. Like, you have to find the positivity in everything. Like, you just have to, or you don't want to stay in a dark place,
Exactly. Yeah. And I think, I mean, from the sounds of it, you're going to help a lot of women get that rainbow. It sounds like, you're really on that path where you can actually give women tools, usable tools to help their body and heal their body, and have that all-rounder kind of holistic approach, because you're not just talking about hormones, you're not just talking about body health, you're talking about mind health too. So all of those things, I think, you could really, really help a lot of people, just through, what we've talked about today, and the fact that you've had the experience as well, because you're coming from a place of understanding. And that's really what we lack these days, that understanding. I mean, in this community, there's heaps of that, but like, for a lot of us, wherever we are, there isn't that understanding. So they either talk into it, or they make it worse by saying something really awful. Like, at least, no, don't say those words ever.
That's, yeah, yes. Boy, is that true. That is so true. Yeah. Yeah, okay. So removed from the vocabulary: infertility and at least. just get them out.
Yeah. I think there does need to be some titling and wording of what we are going through, and just a sort of validation of life and a validation of what it is to lose a baby, because just there seems to be a miss. But it's so amazing that you're doing that, like studying that. And yes, you probably would not have even thought about going into that area without having had losses, because I mean, who thinks about, oh yeah, I want to be a pregnancy
I know.
coach?
What's wild, I didn't even know it was a thing.
Yeah.
I didn't even know it was a thing. So again, this is the universe. This is a thing. So I'm a personal trainer, and every 2 years you need to get CECs. And this upcoming year, I would need to get my, qualifications. And I just got an email from ACE, which is who I have my personal training from, where they just started working with Dr. Sears Wellness, and they offer a pregnancy health coach. I'm like, is this a joke? Is that a thing? Okay, yes, sign me up, because that is exactly what I need to be doing, especially right now, just the timing of it and everything. It was just, it couldn't have been more perfect.
Yeah.
So yeah.
That's awesome. And I didn't know about all these things, like the pregnancy loss doula. You can have those. I spoke to one, she's in this event, and I was just like, oh, okay. Okay. Pregnancy after loss. So you actually can coach people through a miscarriage. She's like, yeah, wow. And prepare them for a stillborn, prepare them for what they're going to go through. And I just thought, that is amazing. That is if you know that's what you're going to go through, having that is so amazing and valuable, and just that could really make a difference in your entire experience. And like we said, those layers of trauma.
Mm-hmm. Yeah. How beautiful. Just to hold that.
Yeah. If you had someone that you could call like that, like a coach, like a doula, and say, is this okay? Is this normal? I think this is happening. That would have been so helpful. And I think, just having that as a resource. And there are just so many women doing it, and you are going to be one of them who helps. And
I hope so.
You might get one of those horrible phone calls of, is this normal? And you'll be able to actually say to them and give them that information. They won't have to wait for 8 hours, and that's horrible but beautiful, because you can save someone from that trauma that you had, and I think that is, that's the silver lining things that, we can cling to, because this is just horrible. It's not beautiful at all. But
there's nothing beautiful about it. No.
But we can make it into something beautiful. We can make it into something that is good and can build us and connect us.
Yes.
So can we
wonderful event.
Can we just talk about your practice before we go, and just what your hopes and dreams are with what you've studied and what you want to do to really help women?
Yes. So again, I've been a health coach now for a year, and I am just recently certified to be a pregnancy health coach. My specialties are in pregnancy and gut health, and will be hormonal health. And though I see women and men, my goal is really to support women, especially with pregnancy and not even just pregnancy, just with their hormones in general, because we are so sensitive, and because those hormones are so intricate. And the gut, everything is connected, right? Everything is connected. You can't fix one thing without fixing another, right? And so my hope is to the long and short of it is that I want to make families nuclear again. And I want people to know that they can live happy and healthy lives. That is a possibility. And a lot of the time, women don't give themselves enough credit. They don't give themselves enough credit, and they don't give themselves any time. You are worth the time, period. Like, a lot of the time women think that they're the ones who are taking care of the children, they're taking care of the husbands and whatever, they're, you know, running ragged, and then they forget about taking care of themselves. And so my hope is to remind women that you are important too. And you can't take care of anyone else until you take care of yourself. And you can live that happy life, and you can be healthy, and you can do whatever it is that you hope to do. It is possible. And so that's my goal. And another goal is to actually fight childhood obesity, but children can't do that on their own. It has to start from the family, you know. And again, most of the time it's the women who are the ones doing the grocery shopping and doing the cooking, and so if we can start from the home, to me, if there's more healthy lives and happier homes, there's more love, and therefore the world has more love, and that's what we all need.
Wow, that's so powerful. And it sounds, I mean the things that I get in my head when you were saying that, I was thinking like that trauma of childhood that I think we both shared. You know, you're talking about literally changing cycles, changing complete narratives of, you know, so maybe the next us isn't us, you know, they're not talking about abuse or, you know, alcohol or anything like that. It's like, you know, oh yeah, I had such a great time. Like, you know, my parents really tried their best, and sometimes, you know, it wasn't perfect because arguments still happen, but it, you know, it was nice, and you could really tell that. And I think, you know, what you're talking about, you are going to make really big impacts, because that just taking the weight off, I think, is a really big deal. And you're right, a lot of women place that on themselves, and they're like, oh, well, taking care of myself is selfish, you know.
Right.
And I am
Right.
definitely guilty of that. But if you don't look after you, then you can't look after anyone else, and you do fly off the handle quicker, and you get more erratic. And, you know, I mean, my children don't really get the brunt. It's more my husband. I haven't had any sleep, leave me alone. You know?
For me, I'm hungry, I need to eat.
Yeah, he's like, calm down, you know. Oh, he's the hangry person. Like he's like, I'm hungry, I need to eat now, you know. So he gets hangry, but I'm like I need more sleep, I haven't had enough, like I'm getting moody. But yeah,
At least
like,
we know each other.
yeah, we've got like a balancing act. I'll just make sure you have a sandwich. Can you give me 10 minutes to just like half sleep-ish? Like I can sleep pretty heavy for the 10 minutes. Like
I'm right.
But yeah, like those things, yeah, are really powerful. And you're right, it starts in the home. And I mean, that's that I'm really passionate about education, which is but children's education, because I'm like, if we get right from the start, you know, then we can do it. But it does start with the home.
Mm-hmm.
It really actually does, because all those building blocks and all those foundations, that's where they are. They start right there in the home. So thank you for doing what you're doing, and for having those goals, because I do think they are very powerful in making a big difference.
Oh, well, thank you so much. I appreciate it.
Keep me updated, because I want to know like how you go. And I'll be linking everything down below. So if anyone wants to chat with you, they can. She has just finished her studies on hormonal imbalances and things. So she's got a world of knowledge waiting for you if you want to know about some of those things. And we do have like other avenues that you can go down with like acupuncture and things like that. But if you don't like needles, this is an option for you to have a look at, because I'm definitely not one of the needle people.
Yeah.
Yeah, I'm just not.
Yeah.
I'll eat whatever you want. I just keep the needles away.
I get that.
Is there anything you wanted to say just on a final note for anyone maybe who's going through this season? I mean, you're still in this season, you're going through it because you're still trying. You're still trying to look for answers and get some sort of assistance. I really hope you do. I'm going to pray because I believe in God. So you say universe, I say God. So I will be praying for you and be praying that you actually get like a decent doctor who will advocate for you as well.
I'm on my way. I think I'm on my way. I'm on number 3, and so far so good.
And I'll be praying for that unblocked tube and the rainbow, because everyone needs a rainbow.
Thank you.
But yeah, thank you so much for speaking with me. And if you've got any final notes, just please say whatever it is.
I think, the one last thing that I would want to say is, and I kind of mentioned this earlier, is that, we need to change our mindset. And so I think the biggest takeaway out of all of this is that we need to start acting and thinking like we are pregnant. And that can go for so many different things. It can go with our nutrition. It can go with our thoughts. It can go with our environment. So we just need to start acting and thinking like we are pregnant and keep that hope.
That is very powerful. And I think sometimes I know with me, I'm like, I'll get healthy when I'm pregnant. I'll get healthy after I'm pregnant. I'll think, and you get into a bit of a cycle because you're like, well, I don't want to change anything just in case that will mess up the pregnancy. I'm pregnant now, so I can't get healthy. Or, well, if I'm pregnant and then I have the baby and then I get healthy, that that could cause trouble too. And so it just becomes a weird cycle. But I think that's so true. If you change your mindset now and you work on your health now, because that could make a big impact, and it will make a big impact on how you feel and everything. I'm guessing you feel a lot better through these courses because I'm sure you've made lots of changes in your life and in everything.
It's yeah, absolutely. I mean, I was already a healthy person, and now I just feel like I have really dialed in on my clean eating, and even my exercise has changed. Like I used to be really into HIIT, and I still love HIIT, but I have found that sometimes that's a little too, well, it's high intensity, right? So that is stress on the body, whether it's good stress or not, that's still too much stress. So I really just kind of toned it down to more functional training and yoga. And so these are all just kind of things to think about. Like if you start thinking and acting as if you are already pregnant, then you're preparing your body to be in this beautiful environment. You're creating this beautiful environment and space for a baby to want to come.
That's lovely to think of that. Like just like you do the nursery, you're preparing that's really pretty. I like that, to think of that. Preparing your body, and you're making your body like the nest, the home. That's so nice.
If you think about it, it's their first home.
Yeah. And I mean, again, like you're not going to regret doing those things. You're not going to regret making yourself healthier and getting like your body prepared, regardless of the outcomes. You can feel better in your own body and in this time and space right now. And you can do it with Amanda's help. or one of the other speakers. You don't
Yeah.
have to go it on your own, you know, and I think that's so beautiful. Yeah. Thank you. Thank you so much.
Thank you. It's been an absolute pleasure. And again, thank you so much for putting together this beautiful event and for allowing me to be a part of it. It's really special.
Thank you.
Please note that all speakers, including experts and professionals, express information, views, and opinions that should not be used to diagnose, treat, cure, or prevent any medical conditions. If you have a medical issue, please consult a qualified professional. Speakers voice their own views, opinions, and conclusions, and they may not reflect the views, opinions, and conclusions of other speakers. Ella Rose, The Joy of Sunflowers, and its sponsors may not endorse all or any of the views, opinions, or conclusions expressed.